When in Rome, Chapter 18. Antonio waited outside the shack. He suspected the manager would not welcome him there, especially the call was made to inquire about his van. So he waited about 30 feet away from the bar. It wasn't long before he saw the brunette server came out with her head down, rooming through her bag and pulling out some keys. He met her just as she inserted a key to the door of a car in the parking lot. "Ciao," he said. The brunette looked startled, but immediately changed to a stern face. She obviously was in the defense that was created by either the manager who told her not to speak to him or being protective of her co-worker. "I can't talk to you right now," she said. "I have to get home." "I need to know where Melissa lives," said Antonio. "I can't give you that information. You have no right to ask me. You're not a police officer in this area." It was obviously that the manager told her to say it. Antonio thought. "Look," he grimaced, "I'm not going to waste your time and mine. I need to know where she lives because she's one of the suspects related with a recent murder that was her friend." "What?" The brunette's eyes widened. "Nobody told me that." "Well, I'm telling you that now. And she obviously knew something, otherwise she would not have left work so quickly." The brunette did not respond, and her face appeared to be less defensive. I didn't know it was that bad." "Do you know Amy Ryan?" Antonio asked. "No, I don't think so." "She was a redhead that was a friend of Melissa." "Oh, yes. I have seen a redhead coming into the bar to talk to Melissa." "That's her." "She's dead?" "Yes." "Oh my God!" the brunette exclaimed. "My manager told me not to talk to you because you're making trouble to the establishment. So I..." Suddenly her eyes looked behind him. She shouted, "Look out!" Antonio felt a huge blow in the back of his head, and before he could react, another blow right to the back of his knees. He collapsed instantly to the ground. Then he felt kicking him in the stomach and the left side of his back at the same time. He heard the girl screaming, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop hurting him!" He lost consciousness. When in Rome, Chapter 19. It felt like a day has gone by when Antonio woke up. The music and noises from the bar were still there, but the amount of cars in the parking lot was less than before. He sat up and rubbed the back of his head. There was a bump, but no blood in his palm. He felt something inside his left fist and noticed a crumpled piece of paper. He opened it. There was an address written in it. The waitress must have changed her mind. He quickly got up, but the pain in his torso, front and back, slowed him down. He looked around. There was no one. He could not recall any description of his attacker, other than a pair of black-colored Nike shoes. He headed to his vehicle and drove off to get away from any more possible attacks. He looked at the address again, and using his phone, and found the place. It was an apartment several stories high. When he got there and pressed the door buzzer, no answer. So he pressed all of them. Someone buzzed him in. He went to the 3rd floor and knocked on the door that's listed in the address. Again, no answer. At this moment, he thought if he broke the door down, it would be considered trespassing. He regretted not making this pursuit official. He kept banging ferociously until a door from the adjacent apartment opened. A man came out and said, "Why are you banging so loud?" "It's an emergency," Antonio replied. "While you're wasting your time, I saw them left earlier," said the neighbor. "When?" "About 30 minutes ago." "How many?" Antonio asked. "How many what?" The man looked puzzled. "How many people left?" Impatiently he asked. The man scratched his head. "I think maybe 4. "Did you get a chance to speak to them?" Did they tell you where they were going? No. I heard voices and stumbling sound of the stairs, so I looked through the peephole and saw them coming and going and carrying bags like they were moving out. Antonio thanked the man and was just about to descend the stairs. He turned. Do you happen to know what kind of vehicle they have? I think it's a van. Gray or green? Sorry, I'm colorblind. Gray or green is the same to me, but I'm pretty sure it's either or. When in Rome, Chapter 20. Antonio rushed back to his car, thinking most likely they won't be back to their apartment anytime soon. The place would only be considered as another location for evidence beside the great van. Where would they be heading? To the north? Civitavecchia? The shipyard? Or to the south? The airport? Or somewhere in between? Somewhere else to hide where he may never find Molly again. The guilty feeling was getting heavier by the second. He must make this official, so he could get reinforcement and question Giorgio, who could be the one ordered the attack that was slowing him down the pursuit. It was close to 1800 hour when he arrived to his station, 2 hours after visiting the bar. On his way back, he tried to figure out what to tell his chief and how much he needed to convince his boss to help him. Based on the amount of time he has been working there, no crime this kind of scale was dealt with at the station. This kind of case usually handed to the Rome headquarters, but to him there was no time for that. And the chances of convincing the chief seemed slim, since he noticed the chief was more concerned with the budgets and keeping peace with the neighboring police force. The thought of Molly being gone close to the end of the second day without any hope of knowing her whereabouts torn him apart. His faith was diminishing, but his determination was still going strong. He must gather all the help he could, even if it was not by the book. He thought of Vincent. If the kidnapper and Molly were going through the airport, would he be able to spot them without any photos, without any description of the vehicle? As for Maria, has she gotten more information on the credit card usage? Will there be any sign of purchases from the card? The last-minute plane tickets? Or a charge of a hotel room? Antonio felt he was back to square one. The chief was furious when Antonio gave him the rundown. From the moment Molly left the station, the very first time to present. This whole thing is a mess, because you did not go by the book, he shouted. You should have left the girl in custody and then drive her back to Rome. In fact, I would not have minded if you help her with a passport and plane ticket to ensure her safety all the way out of the country, he grimaced. You have gotten personal. Why? What was so special about her that you let her stay at your apartment? And you made the store manager to drop the charge. Don't you realize how unprofessional you have been? Antonio responded by explaining to the chief her misfortune the moment she landed Rome. It doesn't matter now. The tone of the chief's voice went down a notch. The fact that you found out she knows the deceased victim made it even worse. We have to find her more than ever. Antonio was unexpected by the chief's response. He was not all about the budgets and diplomacy after all. Just then, a knock on the closed door. What is it? The chief hollered. I got some information for Antonio, Maria replied. Come in. What you got for me, Maria? Antonio asked eagerly. The credit card company emailed me more transactions as far back as a month ago. And in it, I noticed a payment made to an auto company near the location you just came back. Antonio looked at his watch. Any idea where the place opened till? Yes, till 2000 hours. I better go back to that town. You got the address? Yes, but there's no need. I already contacted the company, and they gave me the name that made the final payment of the vehicle, which turned out to be a green van. Both Antonio and the chief eyebrows raised. The chief interjected before Antonio. Who is it? Not who, Maria said, but what? It was purchased under the bar's name. The chief sternly nodded and asked, Did you happen to find out about the serial numbers of the van? Maria handed a sheet of paper to the commander, who studied it for a moment. Unfortunately, you don't have the license plate number, but Transportation Department should be able to have the information. After a few minutes on the phone, he hung up and said, They said they won't be able to get back to me until tomorrow morning. Judging by their hasty movement, I am not certain they will be in this area by tomorrow, said Antonio. I will give Rome a call and have them put on alert to all points of entrance. Antonio was just about to head to the door. Where are you going? I thought I'd check with the IT guy I used to work with in Rome and see if he can track them down. Make sure you let the IT guy here know too. On my way, Antonio replied dutifully. You have the description of these 4 people, no? Yes, I do. Then give them that information too, and drive over there to begin search and rescue. Yes, Chief. Antonio was about to head towards the door when he turned and asked, What about the suspect at the shack? The chief paused a moment and then quietly said, I'll give that station a call. Judging by the look of the chief's face, Antonio knew it would be far-fetched. Until they were able to gather more evidence, it would be pointless since it was not in their jurisdiction. There was still no proof that was the van took Molly. Don't think about that right now, said the chief. Get your ass to Rome.